Today we are talking to Catherine Spet, an interdisciplinary artist based in Vienna. Can you please introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so hi, my name is Catherine. My artist name is Kat, so maybe some of you heard of this. So basically, I would consider myself as an artist, as a digital artist. I have a background in digital art and game art, and but I would say I'm more or less like this creative all rounder because I also do graphic design. Then I work together with a lot of techno clubs and collectives and do a lot of graphics there and also VJing in like the club scene. And then there I have a bunch of other like performance projects. So I would say I'm all over the place, but also, yeah, kind of an artist, but then also doing this graphic part and design part.
Okay, you describe yourself as an interdisciplinary artist. Can you explain to us what you mean by that?
Yes, I would say, I mean, I come from like the visuals, I would say. I do a lot with, as I said, graphics, visual stuff, but I really like to work also with different artists from different backgrounds. For example, like musicians or like more into the direction of experimental sound and performance art. And since I now graduated from the University of Applied Arts and where I did a master's in experimental game cultures, so I'm also now having this game background. So I think in my art, I try to combine different media and also different ways of performing or showing this art also. And I like to experiment around a lot and create interactive experiences. And I don't like to stick on one particular kind of media, but make it more open and more accessible and also find new ways or new ways to also explore my art.
A lot of designers call themselves multidisciplinary. So what would you see as the key differences between multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary?
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is like you can tweak around with the definitions. I would say interdisciplinary, maybe because I try to kind of go into the different media and also collaborate with a lot of people from the arts, from with different backgrounds. And but on the other hand, I could also say I'm multidisciplinary because I work with a lot of tools as well. So I don't know what's the exact definition of interdisciplinary art. I don't know, but
I'm
you know,
not aware of what it is either, but just from like looking at your work and what you do, I think for me the main difference was that I feel like multidisciplinary is a fancy way of saying like
Jack of all
you're a
trades.
generalist and you do a lot of different things. Like you do
yeah,
print design, but also web design and things that are actually very different. And you don't really go into like the depths of those things. Whereas I feel like your work is more focused, and then the interdisciplinary part comes in, and the way you said described just now, like going into the depths in those different fields with different people by like collaborating
yeah.
and
And
stuff like
maybe
that.
also with topic wise, for example, I studied philosophy for a couple of years. I did not graduate, but it helped me a lot with my art, for example, and also with the topics. And I'm because, for example, like now my diploma project was actually more like the written thesis was more into the direction of philosophy and sociology. So this is also like topics that really interest me personally, and maybe you could call this interdisciplinary.
Yeah, I feel like because when looking at your work, it feels very cohesive. So it doesn't feel like it's like spread apart. It like really feels like a cohesive practice. That's why I was curious where you see the differences, and also why you label yourself as such. But I think we have some really great insights now. You were talking about different fields and combining them, like research work, design work, work in the techno scene, like VJing and everything together. Were those all planned decisions, or were those decisions, or was it basically like just a flow where your interests took you?
Definitely a flow. So I think I studied now for 8 years or something. This is such a long time. But I started with studying media technology and then afterwards digital design at the University of Applied Sciences in St. Pölten. And now the last 3 years at the University of Applied Arts in Vienna. And so I think I was very naive when I started studying, and I was like, okay, I want to do movies. Actually, I was always like fascinated by doing like movies and go more to the film industry. And then somehow I met the right people, so to speak, and I got more into the art scene. And then I think it's all about like, yeah, meeting the right people, having contacts, and then there was this focus on doing art, and now I still have this focus on I would love to do art also like professionally, but it's it's always a struggle after after graduating, and then you're like, okay, what can I do now? I'm a finished artist now. Um, but then I'm also super into like going out and partying, and then there's just the scene and you connect with people, and then there's a job here and a job there and someone needs something, and then okay, yeah, I can also do graphics, I can also do VJing. So I think it's actually a combination of like personal interests, hobbies, and then the people you meet and your community, and then somehow this all evolves. And for me, it's also very important to have fun when I work, and this is super cool when I have projects where I can, yeah, go clubbing, but also do the visuals, because I think this is such a nice thing if you have like cool visuals as well. And then
That's actually pretty interesting that you brought it up because we always, like, whenever we talk to also established studio owners or freelancers and how they started out, it's always the answer is always that they always started out within a network. So the first projects they got in were within the network. So it's actually super interesting to see that you're at that stage right now where you get in your work or your income from your network. How would you say one builds a network like that if you're just starting out, like for example in your studies?
I think you always have to be very open and also curious and kind of seek opportunities, and also ask if people need something. I mean, this is also something with what I'm struggling with, because I'm a bit like shy and not too much or going out or presenting myself, or like, let's say, yeah, I'm Catherine, I can do this and this and this. But I think you need this. And then when you meet the right people, and then you kind of jam along, and then with some people you vibe, with others you don't, but then with the people you vibe, then I think it's always a nice connection, and then you have one project and then other projects follow along. And this is, I think this is very nice also to kind of um enrich or like widen your horizon in a way, and be open and talk to people also.
Do you find that currently you have a side income by those projects, or are those mostly pro bono projects?
I would say it's a side income, already. But I mean, the art projects, this is also a different thing, because it's all about like funding, getting getting some money from whatever, the state or like the Stadt Wien. Um, so this is more like this passionate projects where it's not really about money, or I'm not there yet, so to speak. But with the graphic work, it's like the side income, and this is quite nice. And I realized that I'm now kind of building my community, and it's a lot of word of mouth. So if people like my work, then they tell others, and then other people come and say, "Hey, do you want to do something for us?" So this is nice, and I mean, it takes time, I think, but it also pays off, and I really like that.
Could you see yourself doing that full time? Like going freelance full time doing graphic design work and the art being your passion project, or is your long-term goal to make money with your art?
I think I cannot really answer this question yet, but I would say, yeah, I would like to combine both, because there's also something else which comes into play. It's the like creativity. I think you cannot always be creative, and especially with your art projects that are mostly like this very passionate projects. When I am like in the flow and want to do something, then I'm like 24/7 into this, but you cannot work in this way like all the time. So I think this is really, you have to also look or sense your energy resources, and you cannot always be creative in that kind of way, where, because art is for me very personal. And yeah, so I think this would be a nice way to kind of have two incomes, or like two like projects, the more the artistic one and more like the commercial one, which is as well also artistic, but still, yeah, not, yeah. But I don't know. Let's see what the future brings, I would say. But yeah.
Mm. Would you say that at the university you learned anything about how to build a community, how to build a network, or how to like run a freelance business?
Not really. I mean, I think it depends on what university you're in. When I was studying in St. Pölten, it was more into this. Yeah, when you graduate, you have to, yes, build a startup, or like start your own business, find a job, and all of these things. And there we had some courses which also all covered this. But at the art university, it's very free, and then you have to know the course. There are some courses I obviously did not take them, but I missed them obviously. No, but yeah, I think there it's free, and you really have to know what you want to do, and then also find the persons who may be offering this, and then also contact them. And there are offers of courses like this, but it's not compulsory, which is actually a bad thing, I think, because this would be super important that everyone has these courses and knows, okay, when I'm now done with art school, what will I do next? Yeah.
Yeah, we find that missing, and we hear that a lot. Also for us, it was missing. We had one course on that, but it wasn't very extensive. I
Hmm.
would say maybe enough to get started.
Yeah, we learned how to calculate an hourly rate that makes sense in Austria based on things like social security and taxes. But that was it. Like we didn't learn anything about positioning, like how to create a brand. And I think those like we were in a school for marketing actually, and we learned a lot about how to do that for clients, but we never learned about how to do that for yourself. And I think there is a difference there. So I noticed from your website and also how you present yourself that you have a very clear positioning, I would say, about like who you are, what you do in your work. Is that something that you learned to do? Is that just something that you felt like you knew how to do because you were doing it for yourself? Or like how did you go about positioning yourself as like an artist and the work that you do?
I think I'm very bad at marketing myself. Always when I look at my website, I'm like, I could improve this, and I could improve my LinkedIn and everything. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I have all those skills that I luckily have learned during my studies, also to build a website, take cool pictures, create graphics and everything. And also during the time, you know, kind of what your focus is, and maybe what your USP is, so to speak. Um, and so, yeah, but this also takes time, I think. And because when I started, or like also maybe even 4 years ago, I was like, okay, I don't know who I am. I don't know what art I want to do. And then like slowly that starts. And then you also with my graphic work, for example, I see that there is this kind of red thread in a way, and people want that style exactly. And so they ask me if I want to do something. And yeah, but this is something that you have to develop, I think, and you also have to be patient about, maybe. but yeah. But yeah, it's definitely very important to have a portfolio and a website and be online all the time, which is also a bit of a struggle, I think. But yeah.
Since you started out, because you said that you changed your portfolio and it took some time to land where you are at right now, um, did the leads change that you got since you have changed your approach? Since you have changed your approach?
Yeah, I mean, this is also because in my in my personal art, I focus a lot on the topic of AI, but like AI as this new kind of intelligence out there that we as humans have to tackle. And this was this main topic that since the beginning of my studies, where AI was not really there yet. I mean, maybe evolving or maybe in the first steps. Um, so this was a topic that interested me from the beginning. And I think our whole society is now like changing into this direction, and this is such a trend topic right now. So I think there are more requests towards this topic. So I think this was um, kind of how I developed this, or like just went with the flow in a way. And then, but with the other thing, like the more like graphic design and um, more commercial stuff, um, I just started experimenting with things or aesthetics that I liked, and then yeah, it slowly evolved from having this more like friends community, and then now there are different clients as well. Um, but it was more like this, yeah, what do I like to see? Is my aesthetic? And then obviously there are inspirations from everywhere. Um, yeah, so I would say this is kind of like the story behind it, so to speak.
Yeah, I was merely asking because a lot of people are scared of niching down, and it seemed to come to you pretty naturally.
Yeah, I mean, you do have a very distinct style, and I think that that's something that some people are scared to do because then they only attract clients that want that style. But if you look like everybody else, then you probably wouldn't attract people either. So, yeah, it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned AI, which I also find interesting currently, as it's like a trend topic. Do you feel worried about AI? I'm guessing you embrace it in some way in your art, because as you like you tackle that topic. And how are you doing that? And how do you feel about AI in terms of like in the art scene where it's currently like, I would say, criticized heavily because people are worried about it replacing artists or saturating like the art scene.
Yeah, I feel I always saw AI as a tool. Like there's this new technological tool, such as, I don't know, writing or like computers or I don't know. Um, and so from the beginning, because this is maybe also the question why I do art in a way, for me, this is, or when I have this project in mind, it's always, I think, like a question that I have um, that I ask to myself or to the world out there. And I kind of want to tackle this question or come closer to an answer maybe. And so I think this was the beginning where, and then, yeah, when I like started kind of this artistic career, it was like the first model of ChatGPT released, I think. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do about it? Or what are we as a society are going to do about this? And so I see it as a tool, and also maybe from this like techno philosophical side. Yeah, what does this bring to us as a society, and how do we have to adapt? How do we change? Where are the risks? Where are also the advantages? And for example, also obviously in my like day to day business, or like I'm using ChatGPT or some like I don't know in the like Photoshop AI or whatever. But I think it's very important to not feel too frightened by this as a tool, because it's just the way our society will develop, I think, and you should not avoid this, I think, but be open about it and also see how you can use this for your own work. But like the topic that now in my art that I want to reflect in my art is this topic of emotional AI, when for example, ChatGPT or another like chatbot, is being used as actually a partner, or like the people develop emotional attachment towards it. And I think this is kind of what frightens me. And I think this is where we really have to, because then it stops being a tool, but becoming really this anthropomorphized creature actually, and where we can be manipulated, and we don't know where our personal data is going there. And I think, yeah, this is kind of this thing where I see the threat, like this addictive behavior um, by us users, but as an artistic or useful tool. Yeah, you always have to know that, I mean, you can use it. I also use it to, for example, create 3D models when I don't have the time, or the money is not involved in the project, that I sit in front of Blender 3 hours and model something. So I think you can definitely use it, but always have to be sure that this is AI, and I am the person who uses this, and it's not the AI who uses me, if this makes sense.
It does make sense. It makes a lot of sense. I think it's also, I share similar opinions on it. I think it's a tool, and I think that it's just like any other tool that has come up in our history that has then like revolutionized a certain industry. Um, and I think that what you mentioned, the emotional side of it, is not talked about enough. And it is definitely an issue, especially when people can't afford actual mental health services. Then they're going to turn to something that is free. It's pretty clear, and it's definitely an issue that I don't think enough people are addressing.
No. I just have a quick question in between, because you mentioned that you are looking at societal issues from a, I wrote it down, techno-philosophical standpoint. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think, yeah, for example, the topic with AI, in what sectors will AI play a role, or what, like, for example, the emotional one with the relationships, but then also how does this threaten our democracy, and how do we find ourselves in these echo chambers, and only get like the feedback we put in reflected back to us. And I think their art is a nice way to kind of show or and explore these topics, and make them also kind of make an experience about it. Since, yeah, I've now come from the like game industry, or like gaming art scene, where it's all about using also political topics, but and creating kind of an experience where the users or the players can interact and maybe find their own answers, or find their own way through it. And so I think this is like, yeah, what I also want to achieve with my art, in a way to kind of really make sense of these societal or political topics.
Okay, I can see your work is very research based, which is really great, because we are like jumping topics here. So it's kind of like where your interests are. Like you can kind of have like a little brainstorming cloud. I can see it above your head. Like it's all connected though, which I find really interesting. How do you connect all these different disciplines and output something cohesive?
I would say go with the flow. I don't know. It's for, and also like the best ideas come when you do something else. I think when you like, when I'm reading something, or also listening to a podcast, or watching a movie, or some kind of TV series or whatever, and then I think suddenly it all makes sense. So, okay, yeah, maybe I could make this art project about this. And yeah, it's, and also these topics are not like niche topics, but they are out there everywhere, and you just maybe do some research about them, but it's not that, yeah, they like kind of um are important for us all, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not niche per se, but I feel like the way you combine them is niche. That's what I find so interesting. Maybe we could have like a glimpse into your process. Like, let's say you start working on a new art piece, or you get commissioned for, is it when you say you're doing you're VJing? Is it like a video DJ
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
exactly. Yeah.
combination? Okay, so let's take that example then. When you approach a project like that, what's your process?
Since I also do a lot with different like technical, a lot of work with different techno collectives right now, I feel like each collective has like their different style of music, but also how they present themselves and what DJs they have. And so this is a nice way always to really like look up this collective or talk to the people and then kind of look or see where what they want to achieve with this evening, for example, or with this clubbing event, and then yeah, try to find this visual identity for this and this like visual where I think, but it's all sometimes it's improvising, sometimes it's a bit like sensing and where this could go, but yeah, there's subtle changes in the music style, so I think yeah, but I like to kind of also do a little research about this, and then when I prepare the visuals, for example, or when I prepare a visual identity, or um, yeah, also to research your clients. Yeah.
In your art is driven highly by societal issues, philosophical topics, and things that you find interesting, or like a message maybe that you want to convey to have to the person viewing it. Is it something that you also try to do with more commercial work, like a project for like VJing, or I don't know what other, like a branding or something like that? Do you ever try to bring in that angle there, or is it for you, is it like a difference between art and then commercial work?
It depends. I would say I definitely have my handwriting where maybe I already combined all of these thoughts into the work, whatever I'm doing. Um, but it's definitely different from when I'm free in my art and want to say something, or when I have certain things that I that the client wants to have. So this is then I would say it's more commercial and more into the aesthetics, and not like meaning based, or I don't want to convey a deeper meaning what maybe I want to do with or achieve with my art.
Yeah. Do you think that, I mean, I have an opinion on this, but I just think it's interesting because you are an artist. Do you think that graphic design is art?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very hard to find an explanation of art, and maybe it's also unnecessary, I think, because it's always on how you as an artist or as a creative person consider the work yourself, maybe. And I think it's all about this huge creative process in the background, because I cannot stop being creative, or I cannot, yeah, I cannot turn this off and say, now, okay, I just do the client work. I mean, I'm me and myself. So I think it's always all of these thoughts and aesthetics behind that influence all of the projects. And I think it's whatever you yourself say about your work, and it's definitely art. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we could talk very long about this definition of art, but I
Yeah.
think it's unnecessary actually, because if you're happy with your work, then yeah.
Yeah, I think there are different types of graphic designers, some that like to consider themselves as artists and they will say it's art. And then they're the more like I'd say like corporate ones. That's like us, for example. We're like, yeah, it's not art, it's just, it's a business transaction, and like obviously there's creativity involved, but um I wouldn't consider it art. But also what we do is very specific to things like data and like what works, what doesn't work based on that. So it's harder to be super creative in our creativity is more about like the way that we set up a system and the way that we think about it, approach it logically, and there's a lot of creativity involved there as well. But it's not this visual creativity that you have with other types of design.
Yeah, maybe the difference is about like the functionality of it all versus like I feel like with art you don't have to be functional.
Yeah.
Versus with design you have to be intentional and you have to be functional. This is where I see the differences.
That's a good way to define it for sure.
Yeah. I want to go back to all of your practices because you said you're doing research. You s- you just finished your studies. You do graphic design currently, and you do art. And previously, we also talked that you also had like speaking engagements. From all of these practices, what do you enjoy the most currently?
I think actually the most meaning I find in the research process, and I would love, for example, to do a PhD, but let's see what the future brings. Because I think there's so much where you can put research into, and there's yeah, especially with this whole AI and technology stuff, there could be so much research being done, and this would really interest me. But then with all of the graphic stuff, I this is fun for me. I really love to do this, and so I really appreciate this work also. Um, yeah.
What's stopping you right now that you would say like, okay, I'm gonna do graphic design now and create a studio or freelance business?
Yeah, I think this is obviously like the finance question, because right now I'm employed at a cultural association where we also do like host like cultural events and like guided tours and stuff like that. And maybe I also lack the self-confidence to say, no, okay, I want to do this. I'm now self-employed and I really want, yeah, but it's right now it's still like this financing question. I think that, okay, how will I pay my social insurance and all of these
That's a big
things?
one.
So yeah, yeah. So I'm not
Yeah.
there yet, but yeah.
Do you think that maybe as a next, like, okay, then let me rephrase it. From your current position where you are in right now, where do you see the opportunities of taking this instead of a side hustle to making it a full-time freelance business?
Yeah, I would really appreciate the freedom of it, I think. And also what interests me is when you're like work self-employed, that you have a lot of different projects and it's not the same work every week. And I really want to achieve this because I think then I can grow and I can meet new people and learn new skills. And yeah, because otherwise it might get boring maybe. So this would definitely be very interesting to have this different like projects where you, on the one hand, maybe need more go more into the 3D rendering or more like 2D graphic design or some kind of visual performance. Um, but and then also I think I need kind of this maybe like push of self-confidence that I say like, I will do this, and I also maybe I will fail, but failure is also important to know this, and then maybe in the end I will like achieve my goals. And um yeah, but I would say I'm also kind of this imposter. I mean, you probably know this. Probably like many people in the graphic or like creative industry are all call themselves like this imposters, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm good enough, and I'm like, I tend to be a bit into this direction, but
Yeah, that's super normal to the imposter syndrome is so it's like a universal experience, I feel like.
Yeah, no matter how
Um,
good you are. Like we talked to so many different people on this podcast, and they all said, I think almost all of
I
them
think
said
everyone, yeah, said something similar.
about the imposter syndrome, especially in the beginning, and they're all amazing. Like
Yeah.
you would not believe that they have imposter syndrome. Like what? So yeah, totally a struggle that a lot of people go through.
And the financial aspect is also something that I feel like is unfortunately never 100% like solved. It's like you have a certain amount saved up that makes you feel more safe, but because of the nature of the work being project based and you have this one project and then you have a lot of money at once and then you have like a few weeks or months where nothing comes in and then you're like all worried, oh my god, am I gonna have enough money? And then another project comes in, and then sometimes you have lots of projects at once, and then you have zero. So it's just like,
It's annoying.
it's very hard to plan and also feel safe. It's when you have like a product and you're selling this product and you're producing it, and then you have like a certain amount, and then you have like this revenue that comes in every year. It's a completely different concept than service-based work, which is like projects and time.
Yeah. Also, B2B is probably more annoying than
Yeah.
B2C. So, yeah, it's still a struggle sometimes.
Yeah, even for us being in it for like how many years now? 5, 6 years. It's still like this thing that's always kind of cloud that's over your head. It's the financial aspect of everything.
Yeah. Speaking of income streams.
Sorry for not being motivating at all, by the way.
Yeah.
No, actually, it would also interest me, and it would also interest me how you started your business, or how you kind of made the like step. Yeah, okay, now we want to be like create a startup and be like self-employed.
Basically, what happened is that we both were so naive that we were just like, let's do this, it's gonna be fine. And then we were lucky and were able to also create something quickly. And then it turned out okay. Would I do it the same way again? With the knowledge I have now? No.
No.
So it was just like, I would say naive and like kind of just YOLOing it. Yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, we weren't thinking much.
We didn't think much about it, which was helpful because we didn't have time or the, like, I guess the experience to think about all these things that were risky.
Hmm.
We were just like, it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's a pretty risky business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
somehow it worked out. Right?
Yeah, it all worked out. And it's also something I feel like you need a little bit of that risk-taking personality to start, and then also to stay in it, because there are a lot of times when things like start going south and you feel like, okay, it's time to stop. And I think a lot of people do stop then when that happens. And then for us, we had some experiences like that where we're like, okay, how do we keep going? How do we fix this? And we kept going, and now it like got better again. So I think it's also this like perseverance that I think that people, it's like a personality trait you kind of need in this business, because yeah, there's just like a lot of times when things aren't great.
yeah. I mean, you mentioned like the financial topic as an issue of going like for full-time freelance. And you also mentioned that you currently do projects for clients, even if it's pro bono or for a very low budget. Where does your income stream, except for your full-time job or part-time job, come from?
Yeah, currently like from the employment, but then sometimes I'm lucky and I'm part of like art projects that might take a bit longer, like 3 months or so. And some projects are paid very well, others aren't. But yeah, it's always it's a bit like this struggle, and it's this ups and downs, and sometimes it's you have like this nice honorarium, other times it's just like, especially in the arts, it's a bit like, okay, it's basically like just a friendship prize. Or when you, for example, get a funding from, for example, the district or whatever, then you do a performance, and then it's just like, okay, we share all of this money we get just by the people who are in this project, and then it's just like, yeah, a small amount. But and I feel like I'm very bad at negotiating prices. I really have to learn this, because especially when it comes, for example, to all of this like collectives, because I myself in a techno collective, and I know that it's always a struggle with money, and it's really, you do not really make the big like revenue out of this. Yeah, but on the other hand, I know that I am doing work, and I spend my time, and yeah, but this is like something I really still have to learn and be more confident also about this, that I do not like, how to say, sell myself under my value in a way. Yeah. But this is
Honestly,
also a
like,
process.
yeah, honestly, the awareness of that is the first step. like being aware of the fact that you need to not undersell yourself. There's a lot of people out there that are just underselling themselves and don't even realize it.
Proudly.
Or even proudly. Yeah, a lot of people online are like, oh, I could do this for like $50 and you're selling it for $1,000. That's a ripoff. Like, why are you flexing that? But it's because they don't have that awareness. So I think that's like the first step to getting to a place where you feel confident in your pricing. And then negotiating is really just practice. You get better the more you do it. And even sometimes now I feel like, I don't know, sometimes it's like a new project, new client, and you still feel a little bit unsure. So
I mean, it's already good because you are aware of what income those collectives have or what resources those collectives have. So you know that you cannot make like big bucks there. So it's more like, okay, maybe smaller budgets, but something you do out of passion or to build your portfolio. I think that's legit as well.
yeah, for sure. I was
Always.
just thinking about the final question, and I feel like it's not
so fitting.
It's not so fitting because usually we ask it like people who are further along. So like they already have a studio or something. And it's like, what would you say to your past self, like to feel better about, the journey? But
you're in the journey right now.
You're in the journey right now.
Which
so
is
it's like
also interesting.
Which is also interesting and valuable. I mean, obviously you've had a journey up until a point now. So
I mean, actually, maybe you don't even, I mean, yeah, I actually have like this advice maybe for my younger self, or even like, for example, for people who study, because something that I felt or came along during my journey or during the like beginning of the artistic career was that many of my colleagues also struggled with, for example, publishing their art or their projects. And I think this is something where you really have just to be self-confident and just put this out there and be confident about it and say, okay, this is what I like at this point in time. And the audience can see this. And this is also the way how you build a portfolio, I would say. Because, for example, I started with doing like graphic design posters or doing weird experimental videos. For example, on my YouTube channel, there's still some videos that I did back in the days. And when I look at them now, I'm like, that's actually such a cool idea. How did I get to this idea? And I think this is that you always never stop creating and be confident about sharing it also. Even if people don't like it or whatever. I mean, if you like it, then that's enough, I think, in this like art scene, or when you want to kind of build your way or build your handwriting. So this is, I think, just like share it and be confident about it, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I think a lot of people struggle with this. It has to be perfect before I share it with somebody, or it has to be a certain way before I share it. And I think that keeps you back from just putting it out there, like you say, and then moving on to the next thing, and then someone seeing that. And it's always interesting to go back and look at like what you did in the past. I think people for some reason feel like it's cringy sometimes, but some people do feel really cringy about stuff they've done in the past. But I think with creative work, it's like a timestamp, and it's just for that moment it was the right thing for you, and maybe you don't feel like it represents you anymore, but it doesn't really matter. So I think that's really good advice. Thank you so much for being here and talking to us and joining our podcast. It was really interesting to get a perspective from somebody who's like still in the beginning of their journey. I think it's really valuable for people who are in a similar stage.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, and let's see, maybe we meet in 2 years again, and let's see.
We should definitely do that. 100%.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Never Went to Business School. Don't forget to follow us here on Spotify, and if you enjoy our content, check out our YouTube channel for more educational videos and subscribe to our newsletter on Substack.